Well, this was an album. So, Limp Bizkit's Results May Vary came out in 2003, and this was a really good album. A lot was changing in the musical world, and there was a there was definitely a lot of good music coming out at that time. So Limp Bizkit was always kind of the punching bag of the music world. And, well, they dropped probably what is one of their best albums. And it's still kind of a hated album. I really did adore this album. And I'll get into my thoughts very soon. But this album really did hit very close to home with me. Because some of the themes that this album talks about were self-pity, lost love, and bullying, and just really all sorts of negativity. And I think the album does a really good job with approaching its subject matter. Songs like Down Another Day, Build a Bridge, Lonely Road, Almost Over, Drown, Phenomenon, and Behind Blue Eyes, the cover of the Who song, are just absolutely amazing and really just show the emotional core that this band could have. There's a lot of background stuff on this album that feels like it could have fit with this album. Like, I guess Fred Durst had a alleged affair with Britney Spears, and it does seem that maybe a few of the songs could have been about that. Certain of the songs about, fame or bullying, and it really just feels that he was sitting down really just talking about, just how everything felt, and it's such an amazing album for that. The album itself also has a very heavy post-grunge sound, which isn't too surprising considering that Fred Durst did help Stained, Puddle of Mud, and I think Cold come into the music world, and at least was heavily associated with them. And all three of those bands did have a post-grunge sound, so it's not too surprising that something might have rubbed off when they were making this album. And I'm glad it did, because a nu metal grunge album generally sounds really good, and I think this is probably the most emotional Limp Bizkit album. Well, there's still some party rock and rap rock, stuff going on in this album. It definitely does feel like he's just really sitting down and just kind of venting feelings out with the music, and I think it does really good about that. This album also has a very close spot to home for me, because I had been listening to this one after a really rough breakup that lasted longer than it should have, and music was kind of a good way to cope. I was listening to a lot of Cold and Limp Bizkit at that time, and it really did kind of make a lot of these songs really stick close to home, especially Down Another Day and Build a Bridge. They really did stick with me and kind of served as a reminder of what happened, and I kind of want to thank those ones. But also definitely made it easier to process everything that happened, and that's kind of what I think that those songs are really about. It really just feels like he's just talking about a lot that's happened to him. Well, there have been some Limp Bizkit songs that definitely did seem a little more personal. A lot of this album really just felt like it was more down to earth, ignoring a mostly rap metal, and nu metal sound, but just more so talking about like personal issues and just demons that we face on a daily basis. And I like that. It was a new tone for the band to really delve into. And while the next album, Gold Cobra, wasn't really as emotional as this one, I really did enjoy that one for the most part. But I really did like this stretch of albums, because like the previous one we had, Chocolate Starfish, was still dealing with all the rap metal stuff, was kind of, really did have the style of Limp Bizkit, but really did feel like it had some emotional songs too. But with this one, it felt more emotional rather than rap metal, and I like that. It was a different sound that they were going with, and I would have loved if they continued with that, but it also could have been possible that this was the one and done deal. This album unfortunately gets a lot of hate, especially the cover song Behind Blue Eyes. A lot of people act like Limp Bizkit ruined it, which, in my opinion, no, they didn't. They made a great song great again and brought it to a new generation of listeners. It really fits well with the album because a lot of the album just feels like it's about pity and just how difficult life can be sometimes. And this song really fits a lot with the album. And the lyrics especially kind of feel like they could have. The lyrics especially feel like they fit with the public persona that Fred Durst had. No one really. It doesn't really feel like people gave him a chance outside of what they saw already. He wasn't always a frat metal guy, but he was just a normal person. I think people really did forget that, which makes this album hit a bit harder. And especially if you've gone through losses in your life and had dealt with other personal issues. Because I will definitely say 2025 was probably one of the more difficult years for me emotional wise. And having albums like this be listened to really kind of did make me look back and kind of realize that it's like, yeah, just there's definitely a lot of trouble in the world and a lot of chaos, and I'm not alone because other people, they've been through the same stuff that I did, and there's music that kind of felt like it was describing what I felt. So overall, I really do enjoy this album, and I hope people do give it a better chance in the future. Well, the Salts May Vary isn't the best album. It's still quite an amazing album, and I think it deserves more recognition than it gets, and a lot less hate than it gets. Honestly, Limp Bizkit's discography does deserve a lot less hate. They're a really talented band, and while they're not the best band out there, they have a different sound and a different vibe, and I'm glad that they were, because it really did give a lot of new people a lot of great music to listen to, and it really was such a standout among other bands at the time as well. But these are my thoughts on what is probably one of my favorite albums. So, let's just, I guess, do I recommend it? Which I kind of do. I think people should give this one a listen to. It's a really good album. There's a lot of really good songs on this, and especially if you're into post-grunge, it's definitely worth listening to, because it was a really fun album, and I still like it to this day. But these were my thoughts on it, and like always, thank you all for watching, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. See you all next time.